Hello everyone, I'm back with yet another tutorial about React and styled components. In this tutorial, we are going to look at how to create ourselves a custom selector or kind of drop-down menu. It's not a drop-down menu as the common drop-down menu that we know, but it's the alternative implementation of it because we cannot animate that the way we want or customize it. So I've decided to do something like this, and I've actually came across this in one of my personal projects that I needed a custom selector which should be animated, but so in the end I've decided to do something like this, and I said, okay, let's go ahead and share this with you guys. So as you can see, there is a hobby list. I've decided to do this one for hobbies. You can use it for anything that you actually need. And basically what it does is you have a list over here, selected ones, and you have a drop down or kind of input here. When you click on it, it will animate and expand itself, shows the items. As you can see, it's fully animated, and that's what's make it beautiful, and that's kind of the purpose of this tutorial over here. And when you click on any of those, you can add them to your list over here, and when you click on them, they will go back in here. So let's go ahead and see how to do this one in React using styled components. So the first step is going to be creating the project. I will do that using my repository over here. So I will go ahead and let me grab the link over here, and I will type in git clone. Are we in this? Yeah, we are in the right directory. Paste in the URL, and I will call this one YT React Shorts and animated selector, just like that. Press enter, wait for it to finish. There you go. When it's over, we come in here, delete this folder right in here, and open it with Visual Studio. After that, we need to do some configurations first. So first of all, we need to change the name in here. So let me grab this one, paste it over here, save this, and actually we need React icons. So I will go ahead and type in npm I React icons. And after that, we need to come over here inside the theme file and paste in the colors. I have the colors copied already. These are the colors that we need for this project. Close this one, and after that we should come here in this app element or the app component, or before that, my bad, we should go ahead and type in npm I, and after that we go ahead and npm start. Now after it installed everything we needed, it will start the project for us. And as you can see, we got the project over here. I will close this one, we don't need that. Minimize it over here, right beside this one. There you go. So inside the app element, should come in here and remove the title, just like that. We don't need that over here. And inside the app component, we need to define a list of hobbies in this case, which we are going to pass into the component, to the selector. So I have them ready already. So, oops, it was the wrong one. So it was the wrong one. I have the correct ones over here. So let me close this, bring this one up. As you can see over here, and don't mind that error. As you can see over here, we have a list of hobbies, and it contains a list of objects that got these properties. First one is the ID. We need that for the map function and the key for the React to render those. We have the text, which will be showed um, on the badge of the hobby or the kind of the tag element. And we have the selected. This one, actually we are going to pass this one. You can just go ahead and remove these selecteds And when you pass in this parameter, this object or the list to your component, you can add those to it and make a list that holds the states. But I will do it in here. So this list is going to hold the states, and when we select, as you can see over here, when we select one of this, it will change to true or false based on the position that they are in. If they are in the selected ones, when we click on them, they turn to false, and when they are in the list or in the selecting list, when we click on those, they turn into true. And that's how we determine which place is the right one for them to be shown. So after this, inside the app element, we should fix some stylings in here. So I will go ahead and set the Z index to 0. We're going to create something like this for the app elements. It's the 0 Z index. Then we are going to add each layer for any component that we need on it. So when we go ahead, you can see what I mean, but for now, don't get too confused. So we set the Z index to 0, set the position to relative, display to flex, align items or justify content, sorry, center, overflow hidden, and width is going to be 100% of the viewport's width. Background color is going to be colors.background dot background, and the color is going to be colors dot white. And in the end, we set the height to 100% of viewport's height. So okay, let me move this one up. So after that, we have our app element up and running. So it's time to go ahead and create the component. So inside the assets folder, I will create a new folder called components and create a new file called dropdown.js. So the naming is up to you as always. Oops, there seems to be a problem with the naming. So dropdown.js, there you go. Naming is up to you. Drop down. Now that we have the drop down, we should import some elements. So first one is going to be useState from React, not this one. Then we need the style. We have the style already. That's good. And we need 2 more items which don't exist right now. So I will create one of those. The first one is going to be actually the second one. We have the first one here. The second one is going to be the hobby item, the selected hobby items, because we have 2 hobby items. We could make them one and control them using props, but I rather not to do that because it's a small project. If it was a big project, I would maybe do that. So I will create a new file in here, call it hobby.js. Hobby.js is a React functional component, or it's a React component in general. I'm just got to use to say React functional components. So it's going to be hobby, just like this. And for the hobby element, we will come to the styling, but let me do something in here first. So we get 2 props in this component. First one is going to be hobby itself. The second one is going to be remove hobby, because when we click on this in here, we're going to set a on click function in here or event and give it this one or call it this one. In here, we should show the hobby's name or the text. And right in here, let me style it. So save these 2. Or actually, let me first define all the elements in here. Then we start styling so we could see something in here. So let's go back in here and define the elements that we need. We have the dropdown. We need title equal to styled h1 or maybe h2. We need the hobbies element, which is basically a list for the selected hobbies. Is a div, and let me use those in here. So title, use the title first, and hobbies. So we don't see anything because we haven't used the drop down in here. So let's use it. And we should pass this one as a props to it. And I don't think it's called all hobbies. It doesn't, don't have any name right now, but I might call it, I don't know, hobby list maybe. Hobby list. And in here, I will pass this one to, yeah, we get the auto correction in here or auto complete in here. And now that we have this, we should come back in here. So after the title, we are going to use the hobbies element. Hobbies element. And inside the hobbies element, we will actually, we don't have the hobbies in here, so I will use useState in here. So let me remove this one. I'm going to create the state that holds all of this. That gets initialized by this value, this list, and after that we only going to manipulate this one that we are going to create, this state that we are going to create in here. I will call it hobbies, and set function is going to be set hobbies. Grab this one, paste it over here. Set hobbies equals to useState from React, and by default is equals to, this one is equals to hobby list, and as you can see over here. So we're going to map this one and render this one on the screen, but only those who have selected through these two are going to be shown by default. So in here I will map it. It's going to be hobbies.map, and we pass in the hobby as h. In here I'll check it first. If h.selected is equals to, or it's true, if it's true, then we return the hobby and pass some value to it. So first value is going to be remove hobby. We don't have it already, but we will pass the next one, which is the hobby itself, is equals to h, and the key is going to be h.id with the lowercase on the second letter. So when we save this, we get the error that hobby is not defined, so we need to import this. And as you can see, we got those two only because they are only set to true. They are only ones that has the true. And in here, the next element we need is selector. We don't have it already. I will go back to designing this this hobbies over here. Then we go and move on to the selector. So let's go in here and start styling this. For the hobby, we are going to use the padding of 0.5 rem for top and bottom, and 1 rem for the sides. Background color of colors dot, let me import it first, colors dot gray highlight. Border radius going to be 5 pixels, and the cursor is going to be pointer, just like that. So we got our hobbies in here, and here I will destructure some values that we might need. For example, ID and the text from the hobby, and use the text in here and remove this one, just like this. And when we click on it and click, I will use this remove hobby and pass in the ID in it. just like that, our hobby is finished. We don't have this one already, but it's already in here. So when we define that inside the dropdown, we will pass it to this object over here. So after that, we should come back in here and kind of start styling these two items. So for the dropdown element, I'll use display flex. And next, we are going to set the width to 100%. Flex direction is going to be column. We want them to be in a column styling. And gap is going to be 1 rem. So there is a bit spacing between these. Padding is 1 rem. Z index is going to be 1. And the position is going to be relative. So hit save. We get these paddings over here. And now we should move. We don't have any styling for title. Title seems fine already. But for the hobbies element, let's set the display to flex. So they go and just stay right side by side. And align items, center. Flex wrap set to wrap. If you don't set this one, all the items inside this flex, there is a flex, hobbies element is a flex already. If any items overflows in this direction to the right, we might get some scrolling. Actually, we have the overview hidden on the parent element. We don't get the scrolling, but it might happen inside the element, inside the hobbies element. So we set it to wrap. Whenever it gets shrunken or something like that, it will push the items to the next line when they overlap. So and gap is going to be 0.5 rem. And there you go. We have the hobbies, we have the title. It's time for the selector. So I will create a new file called selector.js, functional component. And for selector, we are going to need some more items in here. So I will import them. First one is going to be, we need a search icon. All right, search to line from React icon slash RI. Then we need the IO close circle outlined from React icon slash IO5. That's it. We have the style already. We need the colors. And we need another item, but we don't have it already, which is the hobbies which are inside this selector in here. So let me use the selector right down here after the hobbies element. Selector, just like this. Okay, for selector, we need some items to be defined in here. But before that, I will define the item that is missing right now, which I will call a list item for this selector. So new file, list item .js, and another React functional component, list item, and something in it like ls. And in here, I will import it. Okay, now that we have the list item, we could go ahead and define this the styled components that we need in this section. First one is the selector element that we have already. Then the main idea is to have an input and to have a kind of div or the container for the search element and have an input and an icon in it. So we're going to define something like this. Input section equals to styled dot div. Then we need the close button. Styled dot span. You can use the buttons in here. I'm using span. And we have the input style.input, and we have the list, which contains all of this list item in it. Div, and that's it for the elements. So let's use them right now. First, I'm going to use the input in here, input section. Input section. Inside the input section, we have the icon. Alright, search to line. So what seems to be the problem here? Nothing. After that, we have the input. Placeholder of type at least 3 letter, or you can type in whatever you want. Save it. After the input, we are going to use the icon, the close icon. So I have close in here. So what's the problem? It didn't export it from this one. So I think there is going to be, I think it's a typo problem. Let me make sure. IO close, or actually we could go in here, React icons, search first. Close. It should be somewhere down here, I think, or here. It's there. You go. Paste it. Yeah, it was the outlined. I typed in outlined. It was outline. So there you go. We got the close button. After the input section, we are going to use the list. And just like this. So inside here, inside this section, we need some items to be taken care of. Don't mind that. And first one is going to be state. So we are actually getting something in here, which is the hobbies handle, which will give us access to this over here, so we can set any items here. And it's coming here. And we need some states here in here. I will define them, but before that, we will destructure this one, hobbies handle. So I will get these two from it. Equals to hobbies handle. Next one is a state, search list, set search list, equals to useState. I don't know why I'm getting recommends from this, but I'll use it and change it right now. So come in here and change this one to React. There you go. Don't mind the error because we haven't passed this one, so let me just do it. So we can get rid of the error here. So selector text in and handle is equals to these two. Now we're good to go. And the next state is going to be search input. Just like this. Let me copy this one. And we have something called is open. And set is open. We're going to use this state for the purpose of opening and closing, and use it for inside the styled components for animation. It's by default, it's false. It's closed by default. And this one is not an array, it's a text. And here are our states here. So now that we have our states, let's use them. So, or before that, we could go ahead and just style those. So I will style them first. For the selector element, or actually we could use the logics, then go ahead and work on the looks. So I will implement the logics first for logics, we need to use useState in here. So we're calling useState. Do we have the useState already? Yeah, we have. Sorry, we need the useEffect. So we'll import it. Come down here. useEffect. Function here. Then an dependency array, which is Hobbies. If it changes, this component gets re-rendered. And in here, I'll set search list to Hobbies. We could just use it in here, but it might do caching and gives us some problem. So we'll come down here, create a new function, arrow function. We can use the regular function determination like this and remove item. And this function takes an ID and removes the item from the list, as you already guessed it. So inside this function, we will set this one, set the search list. So I will use the set search list and use the previous. I will pass in the previous value because we are going to do something on it. And it will filter. We are going to use the filter to remove an item from this list. So it's going to be something like this: search list dot filter, not filter. And we are going to check in a condition in here. So if we return true from this one, the item that this filter is already on will be included in the new array. And if it return false, the new item won't be included. So let's go ahead and see. We pass in an X. This is an instance of the current array because this filter will go and loop over all of the elements. And checking if the x.id is not equals to the ID that we pass in here. So what happens is this here, actually, let me see where is the problem first. We have the filter, or actually, so search list dot filter. Let me see. If I remove this too. Oh, my bad. When you're using arrow functions, you should do something like this. So in here, we'll pass this one, and in here, we'll check that again. So if x.id is not equals to, actually it's not a if, it just returns the result of this condition. So to the ID. What it does is it will go ahead and loop through all the items inside this list, and in here, when we hit the item that its ID is equals to the ID that we've passed in here to this function, it will return false, because as you can see, x.id, if the ID that we passed is something like 2, and the item that the filter is currently on is 2, this condition is going to be, the result of this condition or evaluation is going to be false because they are the same, and this one makes it to return false. And in conclusion, the filter does not return that value inside the new array that we get from this filter. So just like that, we remove the item from the list and set it to the search list. After that, I will check in to see if the search input is, if it's exists. It actually exists already. If it's not null, and we set the set input, set search input to nothing. Or actually, we should check this like this: search input, it's not equals to this. So this is the item. This is the remove function. The next function we need is the search function. Equals to this. We get a value. And first we set the search input to this value, because we are using a managed or controlled input in here. We are going to do that. Next is going to be checking the value. So if the value exists, actually let me move this one, or it doesn't really matter in this case. We are going to set the search list based on this value. So we're going to search between the items and return those whose text contains this value. And we will just return them. We're actually going to use the filter again. So let's go ahead and do that. Set search value, or sorry, set search list. And in this case, we are going to use all the hobbies. Here, we were using the items that were inside the search list, but now we are using the all hobbies, because we are going to search between all of those, not those that are already in our list, you know. So we're going to type in, but only those that have the selected false, those that are not selected already. So the set search list to hobbies, we filter this and x. So in here I will check it if x dot selected. If it's not selected, actually when you are going to use this, you should go ahead and do it this way. And so if it's not selected, we will return x dot text dot to lowercase, or actually local lowercase, and we're going to search inside this this string using includes. It's a built-in function. And it takes in a value, so I'll pass in the value dot to local lowercase, just like that. And if it's not, then we return false, so don't return that, just like this. So just to go over through it again, we set the search list to the items from the hobbies list, all of the hobbies, and we filter those. So if any of those, we go and loop through all the items in it, and if any item is not selected already, that is not here, is inside the list, which we can see right now, and we take that item, convert it to lowercase, because sometimes when you type something, you want to make sure that you actually hit and target. You don't want to miss something, so you transform your text and your search value both to lowercase, so at least they have some common grounds. And we transform it to lowercase. After that, we search through it, through the strings using the includes. So we search the value. If it contains that, we will remove that value. If it's not, then actually we return the true false of this, the result of this one. This one could return true or false. If it returns true, we get the items in the new list, this X in the new list. And if it's not, we return false, and we don't get the item to gets back. So, and after that, in here, if value is nothing, or we are searching something here, as soon as we remove this one should gets equal to nothing. So if it's nothing here, we set we set search list to all the hobbies, just like that. So this is the search function here. We have it already. now we should use these functions inside our UI and elements. So actually, because we are going to use this is open inside this styled component, I will pass this so we can use it over there, just like this. I will pass this as open, some custom naming. This one you can name it whatever you want, as long as it doesn't it doesn't overlap with the other reserved values, like key. You can't call it key. And let me grab this one, paste it in input section. We are going to use that in input section. And we need we need that on the close button. Actually, the close button can wrap this one inside itself. So I will go down close button and put this one in it. Give this to the close button too. And in here, for the input, we need to set something. So when we click on this input, we click on this one, or this one gets focused on. We could use onFocus. And onFocus, we will just set is open to true. The menu will expand and open. The value is going to be search input. As I told you, we are going to create a controlled input here on change. When it changes, we will do the search. And just like this, we'll search with the e.target.value with the text. Just like this. When we click on the close button, we should obviously close the menu. So I will set the is open false. And right down here, we should map through all the items that we have, but only those who are selected, or sorry, are not selected, because this list over here are the not selected list. So search input dot map, not match map, and here's a hobby, and we will check that hobby. So if that hobby is selected, we don't want it, so we want the not selected ones. And if it's not selected, we return a new list item that has the key of h.id. Hobby, we pass in the hobby. And we pass in the remove item. Just like this, and we have the add hobby, which is add hobby. So right now we don't have the add hobby, but we will create it. Actually, we should give in the add hobby in here instead of set hobbies. It was my mistake. So I will go back in here. I think we should define that add hobby in here. So yeah, actually we have the add hobby and the remove hobby. We should use them in here, or define them actually in here. So I will go ahead and define those. Const add hobby. So what this does is it takes an hobby ID, or you could just use ID. I will the naming is very important when you're coding. You should make it as clear as it gets. And so we check the hobby. If it's not null or empty, we should set this one. Set hobbies use the hobbies that already exist, the values, pass it, and map through it. So hobbies, let me see. The reason that we are using the map here is when we filter, we only get to select and remove some items from the list. But when we use map, we go through all of them and we can actually manipulate or kind of edit the values, then return those in in form of a new array. So we will use the map here because we are going to mutate the items. And hobbies.map, we pass in the current hobby. And in here, we will check if h.id is equals to hobby ID. We return all of the values from the hobby, but we will change the selected to true. So it will get selected. And if it's not the hobby that we are looking for, we just return the usual hobby or the hobby elements, just like this. And that's it. So add hobby is not defined. I will define that in a sec. Just wait. I'll place it over here. So after that, we need another function called remove hobby is equals to this. The function, this one takes a hobby ID too. So once again, we are going to do this one in here. We're going to do the same here. And the only difference is going to be that we change this one to false. Actually, we are repeating ourselves, so we could just do something like this. New state, state, hobby, state, and I'll do something like this. So paste it over here, and we set this one to something like this, and we don't need this. Let me comment this one out. There you go. Now for the remove or the update hobby, we pass this one to the hobby item as does this naming. I will just call it update hobby. Just like that. Let me destructure it in here and paste it over here and change this one to false. So it will remove it. And where we right here. And we should pass in the update hobbies state in here too. So after that, I will go in the selector, destructure it in here, and let me see. Yeah, the remove item and the add hobby item. We are not going to use those. So we have the remove item here. But for add hobby, I will use something like this. Update hobby state. Or the update hobby. I'll pass it this way. And structure this free item inside this list item. There you go. So what seems to be the problem in here? React animated. So unexpected token. Just refresh this. Search input that map is not a function. So let's get back in here. Oh yeah, we have to use the search list. My bad. There you go. We have these items in here. We have this. So I think we are done for the selector section. Let me make sure. And we should go inside the list item. So inside the list item, we need useState from the React, useEffect, and the useRef from React. And we need the colors, just like this. Now, we don't need any special item in here. Just this one is fine. But inside this, we need some values. So first of all, let me use a text in here. Or actually, we could go ahead and define the states before we get started. So I'll destructure this one to ID and text, the hobby. You could get the selected in here too, even in this one. You could get the selected, but we already know which one is selected and which one is not. So we are not going to do any styling based on those. You can do that, but we are not going to do that in here in this video. And visible, we have a state when the hobbies gets shown on the page, this visible turns to true, and it will animate the first or the initial animate of these hobbies, which are going to be fading from bottom to top or something like that. So visible and set visible is equal to useState, and it's false by default. Then it's item ref. We're going to use ref and initial value of null. Useref is kind of the same way of saying it's kind of the same as the useState, but the main difference is that it's an object. The ref creates an object with the property of or the current, sorry, and when you change the value on this, the component does not get triggered for the new render. So it does not actually triggers a new render when you change the value. But for the useState, when you change the useState's value or this state's value gets changed, you get a new render or the component gets re-rendered. So we're going to use something called observer. We could let me first define it. Observer equals a new IntersectionObserver. It takes a function. I'll use an arrow function in here. And we've got some entries in it. So if entries, the first one, dot is intersecting, this observer gets, as the name shows, it will observe the kind of element that you pass to it. It's the second one, so let me use it first, and I will explain it. And if this one is intersecting, or you could actually just use something like this. True. If it's true, then we set the visible to true. And if it's not, we set the visible to false. We are using this to see if our element is inside the viewport, or actually the user can see that, because when you scroll and elements get out of the boundaries of the viewport, this intersection could help us and tells us that, look, the item is out of the viewport. What you want to do. So in this case, we say that if it's outside, if it's inside the viewport's view, or the user actually could see that, or you could actually define some percentage, like for example, say if 20% of this object is visible, do something like that. But we are not doing the percentage in here. We only want to see if the object is visible or not. If it's even barely like 1% of it is visible, it gets called and gives us sets the set visible to true. And if it's not, it does the opposite. So the next Actually, value is the config, so threshold to 0, just like this. And now in useEffect, we are going to say this, give an element to this one and say, okay, let's observe that. So useEffect and function here, dependency array, which takes hobby, and observer dot observe the item ref dot current, which is null for now. So I will take this one and set the ref on this element to this one. And after that, we should do some cleanup in here. So that the component gets unmounted, we set the visible to, let me see, to false. And actually we stop the observer, disconnect it. We're not going to set this visible false in here because observer does it for us, but we should disconnect this one so we prevent any kind of memory leak or something like that. And in here we need a function called add hobby, local function. By local I mean we already had the add hobbies. We changed it, but we had that. And this is another add hobby in here, so it will call all the functions that we need. So it's going to be, let me see, we have the remove item here, and we have the update hobby. We remove this using this ID in here, and update the hobby based on this ID and set this to true. Just like that. So let's move in here. And when we click on this, we want to add this item, add this hobby to the list of selected hobbies, or actually change the selected property on the object. And click. We could just use it as like this. And we pass in this visible to the element because we are going to animate based on that. So visible with the lowercase, the naming is up to you. We have the ref, we have the onClick, and the only thing we have to do is to show this one in here. So show the text. If I press save, we can see we get this all in here. If I click on any of those, yes, it gets added to the menu. Click on this, it will remove it. So let's go ahead and work on the animation and styling. So we go back to the selector. In here, actually we could first style this one, then go to the selector. For styling, we set the padding first. 0.5 rem, top and bottom, 1 rem for sides. Transition is going to be all. 0.3 seconds is in out. Transition delay is going to be 0.1 second. And background is going to be linear. So linear gradient. 45 degrees. Colors dot gradient dot g1 and the first color. Grab this one, place it over here, and use the second color here, and set the border radius to 5 pixels. color to colors dot white. It's already white, but I will set that. And transform to translate y. If I set this to 20%, you can see that they go and move bottom. We are going to use the visible props in here. So first we pass in the props, p.visible. If it's visible, set this one to 0, so there is no transformation. And if it's not, set this to 50%. I will copy that. Use the same for opacity. Remove this. So if it's visible, opacity should be 1, and if it's not, opacity should be 0. Refresh it. As you can see, they all load in the same way. And the cursor is going to be pointer. Just like that, we got those up and running. So let's, and actually it's a good idea to set the width to fit content. There you go. It's better now. So let's get back in here inside the selector and style the items inside the selector. First section is going to be selector element. So let's go ahead and do this. Position is going to be relative. Width is 100%. Display is going to be flex. Display is going to be flex. And flex direction is going to be column. Background color is going to be colors dot card VG. Padding is 1 rem. Gap is 1 rem. Then we set the border radius to 10 pixels. Transition all 0.3 seconds and is in and out. Height is going to be it's based on props again, so p dot I think we are using open in here. Let me see. Yes, we are passing in open. So if it's open, the height should be 100 pixels. I will set this like this one with static height value, because I want this to be scrollable on purpose. I can set this one to 100% or something like, or fit content. That way we don't get the scrolling effect. So I want it to be scrollable. And then if it's not, it's going to be 0.375 or 0.75 rem. Just like this. The overflow hidden, as you can see over here. So if I click on it, you can see it gets open. Click on it, it gets closed. So it's time to move to the input section. Display flex. We align the item center. Width 100%. Position is going to be relative. Gap 0.5 rem. Transition all 0.3 seconds. Is and out. We could go ahead and set this one for all the elements inside this, but I will not do that in here. You could go ahead and use this in global styling inside the index folder. Sorry, the index component in here. Paste it over here. And padding bottom, it's based on the props. So P, it's open. Padding bottom should be 1 rem. And if it's not open, we don't have any padding. It should be 0. There you go. If I close this, it happens like this. So the height is going to be 2.5 rem. I'm going to style the switches inside it, the icons. Color is going to be colors dot white, and the font size 1.5 rem. Save it. Then we are going to create a new line in here. When we click on this, the line will get expanded with the ease animation. So I'll come here, use the pseudo elements after content to nothing, transition to all. Let me grab this one from here. It's 0.2 seconds. Width is going to be based on the props. P dot open. If it's open, should be 100%, and if it's not, it should be 0. Height is going to be 3 pixels. Border radius is 20 pixels. Background color colors dot white, and position should be absolute. Left should be 0, and the bottom should be 0. So we cannot see it, but when we click on it, you can see that this one gets appeared. So we got the border radius, we got the background color, we got the position, everything sounds fine. And we should move to the close button here. Let me remove it or close it. And for the close button, set the display to flex just to center the icon. Flex, justify content center, align item to center, transition again. I will grab this one, paste it over here to 3, and color is going to be white. I think it's gray. No, it's not white. Let me see. Colors dot. Yeah, it's white. White seems better because gray is kind of going to fade out in this background. Cursor to pointer. Font size 1.5 rem. And the opacity, let me grab in the opacity from this one. Where is it? Where is the opacity? Do we have it over here? No, so I have to set that manually. So we grab this width, paste it over here, change this one to opacity, and when it's open, this one should be 1, and when it's not, it should be 0. I think it's, yeah, there you go. Let's move to the input. I will unset all of its properties and start to style it from beginning. So I will set all to unset, just like that. Keep in mind that if you do any styling before this, let's say you style something here, then you set this one to all onset, it will ignore all of those and kind of override those. So you should, if you want to style something like this, you should use it first, then start styling. Keep that in mind. Flex to 1, so it takes all the space available. Font size to 1.5 rem or 2. 5 seems a lot. Let me save that. And the font weight is going to be 600. A bit bold. Okay, let's go to the list, and if you click on this, you can see that the animation is working already. So we should do styling for the list in here. For the lists, I'm going to set the display to flex wrap to wrap, gap to 0.5 rem. I save it, you can see that they restructured themselves. Max height is or max height. It's going to be 100 pixels. Overflow X is hidden, but on the y-axis we are going to set that to auto, so we get the scrolling. Overflow Y to auto. So you can see we get the scrolling, and we should style this scrolling here. So in order to do that, I will grab the code from here. Wait a second. To customize this scroll pad or scroll bar, you should use these ones, as you can see in here. This one works for the sizing. As you can see, the properties speak for themselves. So I'll save it. You can see it over here. We get our custom scroll bar in here too, and the animations are working. Let me search something, for example, cooking. We have the cooking already, so there you go. Is a problem to local lower. Yeah, that's a problem. So let me just test it in here. To local, I missed an E. So grab this one, go in the selector right in here, and it should fix it. And if I search something like volleyball, yeah, it does work. And we could actually do those. When you click on it, it's disappeared. I think we should set an opacity for this one, so it seems better. Where is it? It's right in here. I'm grabbing the opacity. And let's save it. Yeah, it seems better when it fades out. That seems kind of better. That's it. Okay, everyone, the video or the tutorial is over. We've implemented this custom drop-down order selector with all of its animation and its logic. I hope you liked it. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and of course comment. I really get hyped when you guys comment on my videos, and it inspires me more to do the videos. So and in the end, don't forget to follow me on my Instagram and the LinkedIn. I post some things on those, and you might get some heads up before the videos come out and get a estimated time about the next video or the next project that I'm going to post. So take care and stay safe.